report on alleged anomalies in the purchase of pandemic response supplies, Committee Chairman Richard Gordon explains the cases that can be filed against President Duterte when he steps down from office. He adds these could warrant Mr. Duterte's impeachment if time permits. Our Amor Santos reports.
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon gave a litany of charges that can be filed against President Duterte for his alleged role in the Farmally controversy. According to Gordon, Duterte could be impeached for betrayal of public trust, but there's no time left. It's the last week of Congress. Sessions resume in May with a month left for the Duterte administration.
The Ombudsman can conduct an investigation even of the President. And when he finds that there is grounds to file a case against him, he can file a case against not against any court, but in the Senate, in the lower house for impeachment. So there is no blanket rule that the President cannot be charged. He can be charged by the Ombudsman, but there is no more time.
This is why, in a partial report released after 18 hearings, Gordon said charges must be considered against citizen Duterte. In a press conference, Gordon explained the chief executive can be held liable for inciting to sedition, for banning officials from facing the Senate probe, grave threat and coercion, and breach of official duty for his attacks against the Senate and the Commission on Audit, and negligence of duty for appointing a Chinese businessman as economic advisor. Michael Yang allegedly helped and financed tiny corporation Farmally in its questionable supply deals with the government during the pandemic. Gordon urged the president to show some principle by moving for Yang's deportation. Despite their word war, the senator maintained he's not biased or fueled by his re-election bid. He also dismissed his House counterpart's claim that his report lacked evidence. He said he will submit the findings to the Justice Department and the Ombudsman and let them do their jobs.
I've done my work, Chef. Let others do their work. And now others will do their work. Well, if everybody will join me in a class suit, fine. But I'm pretty sure we have very, very strong evidence beyond reasonable doubt. That's all I can say.
Gordon added anyone can file complaints against President Duterte. Health Secretary Francisco Duque, former Procurement Service Head Lloyd Christopher Lau, Michael Yang, Farmally executives, and others involved in the corruption scandal.
I don't want the public to think that it is only the Department of Justice that can file. Any citizen can now file as ombudsman. You know, it's about time our people wake up and that they file the case. They can get the Blue Ribbon report. They can use us as consultants and they can file the case. I think some people will file.
Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Presidential aspirant and Senator Ping Lacson says the Senate may not be able to adopt the findings of the Blue Ribbon Committee. In an interview with Bombo Radio, Lacson explains that while the Senate leadership decided to extend its session until Thursday, he believes there is not enough time to discuss the committee report in the plenary. Although he has signed the report, Lacson wants more clarification.
Pag-susuri ng aming mga kasamahan. Ako nakapirma na sa committee report pero nag-indicate ako na mag-interpellate ako. Kasi meron akong gustong mga liwanagin. Lalo doon sa yung parang may recommendation yata doon na kasuhan ang Pangulong Duterte ng betrayal of public trust. Malalim na usaping legal ito. Pati yung pagkakaso doon sa lahat ng mga personalidad. So dadaan talaga ito sa, sa matinding interpellation sa floor.
Senator Manny Pacquiao says he fully supports the committee report without any reservations. The presidential hopeful also says all findings are true based on the series of hearings and that he trusts Committee Chairman Richard Gordon. Another presidential aspirant, Leody de Guzman, is calling on the Justice Department to immediately act on the Senate panel's recommendation. De Guzman says charges should be filed against all those accountable. Health Secretary Francisco Duque was a no-show at an event in Cebu City earlier today. Last night, he issued a statement saying if the Blue Ribbon Committee's report will be adopted, he will fully cooperate with the court's processes as they have, quote, nothing to hide. Malacanang, meanwhile, has no comment on the Senate panel's recommendations. In a television interview, acting presidential spokesperson Carmen Nograles says it's difficult to talk about a partial report Besides, he says Malacanang has no official copy so far. But Nograles notes the president has repeatedly told senators in his regular Talk to the People program to file charges against anyone. He adds the president is not protecting anyone. "96 days before the Filipino votes, senior poll officials, including the chairman, Sharif Abbas, have retired. Abbas and Commissioners Rowena Guanzon and Antonio Co were accorded a retirement ceremony this afternoon. Let's get the latest from our Melissa Lopez, who has been covering developments at the COMELEC. Mel, as of today, so still no decision on the Marcos disqualification cases, which Guanzon has been fighting for. And we also saw Guanzon and Commissioner Amy Ferolino in one room together. Tell us what happened.
Yes, Pia, that's right. Still no resolution on those Marcos cases. But today, we saw Commissioners Rowena Guanzon, Antonio Co, and Chairman Sharif Abbas and their years of service at the COMELEC on a high note, despite that controversy about their pending disqualification cases against Bongbong Marcos. The 7 commissioners gathered for one last time for that retirement ceremony at the Hotel Sofitel in Pasay City, also the venue for the ongoing management committee meeting at the poll body. The event was off limits to the media, but Guanzon's office made available a live stream from inside the Harbor Garden tent, the same venue for the filing of candidacies in October. This was the first meeting of Guanzon and Commissioner Amy Ferolino in person after a week-old rift on the alleged delay of the Marcos cases. They sat 3 people apart. Since last week, Guanzon has been calling out Ferolino for supposedly favoring Marcos and conspiring with a male senator to deliberately stall the resolution of the cases. The two have not made up so far. In her speech, Ferolino took no shots against Guanzon and even thanked her for friendships formed from working together. Guanzon, however, did not clap her hands after Ferolino spoke, but also held back from taking any jabs and instead thanked everyone for their, quote, friendship and respect. Guanzon, Co, and Abbas's retirement leave 3 posts vacant. This comes in the middle of an election season and with the May 9 polls just around the corner. Guanzon earlier said that work at the COMELEC will definitely turn out slow as 4 people will share the load of 7 commissioners. A looming reshuffle of commissioners assigned to the 1st and 2nd divisions will also complicate case processing, with new members expected to decide on pending cases, including those against Marcos. Guanzon blames Ferolino for reaching this scenario without a resolution on the Marcos case. With no decision on the cases beyond her retirement, Guanzon and Commissioner Marlon Casquejo's votes will not hold weight. The remaining commissioners Socorro Inting, Casquejo, Ferolino, and Ray Bulay turned over tokens to the retiring officials today and wished them well for the next chapter. Inting thanked Abbas for his leadership despite being the youngest poll chief in history. She says the best way to honor the 3 retirees would be to make sure elections in May are successful and clean. Now, what is life after COMELEC? What we know so far is that Guanzon and Co are both planning to stay in public service. Guanzon has a pending application for Deputy Ombudsman for the Visayas, while Co is applying to be the next Supreme Court Justice. No word yet about the next career path of Abbas. We'll try to find that out. Pia.
Well, Mel, any word on names being considered to replace Chairman Abbas and Commissioners Guanzon and Co?
What we know so far is that Malacanang has already put together a short list for President Duterte to have some options for these 3 vacancies, but we don't know whose names are on there. But meanwhile, this watchdog group called Participate is asking for independent appointments to the poll body. They say whoever President Duterte chooses to appoint should be independent. They should not be politically aligned or politically inclined, rather, and they should not come from his fraternity. Back to you, Pia.
Mel Lopez reporting from COMELEC's headquarters. Ahead on Newsnight, health experts thumbed down a proposal to do away with alert levels in areas with high COVID vaccine coverage. And 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady is retiring from the NFL at 44 years old. Details when we return. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. 7,661 more people contracted the coronavirus. This brings the total case number to 3.58 million. Active infections dropped to over 160,000, excluding data from 2 laboratories. Another 43 patients died, nearly 23,400 recovered. The positivity rate, or the number of people with COVID-19 out of those tested, is at 24.8%. The World Health Organization says a positivity rate of below 5% indicates virus transmission on the ground is under control. Now, while the government is making a pandemic exit plan, should the alert level system be scrapped in areas with high COVID-19 vaccine coverage? This is the latest proposal of Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion. But as Caroline Bonkin tells us, health officials are adamant the classification is here to stay.
Much like public storm warning signals, an alert level system is in place this pandemic. The system determines relaxations and restrictions depending on the spread of COVID-19 infection and hospital care use. But with increasing vaccine coverage in major cities, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion says it's time to forgo the alert level system in areas with at least 70% vaccine coverage. Much like in the U.S., Concepcion says,
katulad dito sa Amerika, walang alert level dito. But we're moving right now, going out in restaurants, vaccine cards are mandated. Number 2, there is social distancing, wearing a face mask. So there is a basic minimum health protocol set up without any alert level. When you're sick, you stay home, you get well, and then you go out.
On that note, he recommends that presentation of booster shot certificate must be mandated in Metro Manila.
Kasama po yan sa mga pag-aaralan at i-discuss as we transition from the pandemic framework together with the entire world, to a more endemic way of handling and mitigating the risks of COVID-19.
Dizon says most cities in Luzon already have over 70% vaccine coverage. To build a wall of immunity against the virus, the government aims to vaccinate 90 million Filipinos by end of the Duterte administration and give boosters to over 72 million people. But health officials are not buying the proposal, saying alert levels are not tied to vaccine coverage.
Evolving po ang situation. Hindi pa ho natin alam kung ano mangyayari in the future. We should always be prepared. That's why the alert level system is here. We can always stay at that lower alert level, pero pag dumating na tumataas na naman ang kaso, ito pong alert level system na ito ay gagana at makakapagbigay ng guidance kung kailangan po natin magkaroon ng mas mahigpit na restrictions because tumataas ang mga kaso.
The alert level system is there as a fail-safe na para, kasi kung tanggalin natin sila agad, anong gagawin natin kung biglang mag-spike yung kaso? Inasasarado ba natin? At least yung metrics po natin ngayon, makakalibrate po natin yung response depending on how fast things are going.
The World Health Organization reminded countries it is premature to either surrender or declare victory over COVID-19. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
The city of Cebu now rolling out booster shots in pharmacies. Interagency task force officials oversaw the rollout of the Res Bakuna sa Botica program at the Rose Pharmacy this morning. Mercury Drug, Generica, and Watson's will also be venues for the program in Cebu and other areas in the Visayas. Cebu and Baguio are the first cities outside Metro Manila to administer booster shots in pharmacies. Preparations for the May 9 polls continue with just 3 months before voting day. This morning, COMELEC handed over the flash drives kept inside silver and black metal boxes to the Bangko Sentral for safekeeping. These contain the source codes that will run the May 9 automated polls. The BSP vault has been the designated storage of the software codes since the shift to automated elections in 2010.
Go to the basement. Only the BSP can open that vault. So COMELEC cannot enter that without the BSP. But once you enter that vault, that particular compartment where the AAS source codes are stored can be opened only by COMELEC. And it would be the executive director who has that key. The key, that's a dual padlock, the key to that. And then you have a combination lock, which is also under the sole responsibility of the COMELEC.
The flash drives will remain inside the BSP vault until 2028 unless pulled out by the poll body. An update on some presidential aspirants 96 days before the Filipino votes. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos denies his camp is secretly meeting with another vice presidential aspirant, Senate President Tito Soto. Now, this comes amid rumors Marcos's wife Liza is supporting Soto and not Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. Marcos also rejected claims Liza sees his running mate as a threat in case their tandem wins the elections. A group of more than 70 women local government officials supports the presidential bid of Vice President Leni Robredo. The Pinunong Pinay Power says Robredo is a true servant leader, untainted by any allegation of corruption. Senator Ping Lacson offers two possible solutions to mitigate rising oil prices. In an interview with radio station DZRH, he said the country can either revisit provisions on fuel excise taxes under the train law or venture into a joint oil exploration in the West Philippine Sea.
Position ko, basta't 60-40 at sumasang-ayon sa ating saligang batas, dapat payagan lang natin. Not necessarily China, maski anong bansa na po pwedeng pumasok sa joint exploration. Sa ngayon, ang alam ko, pumapagi yung China doon sa 60-40, meaning 40% lang sila. Sa akin, symbolic yun. Ba't hindi natin papayagan? Pagka sila sumang-ayon doon sa ating saligang batas na sa joint exploration, yung joint endeavor, no? At 60-40, ibig sabihin, sa akin, subliminally, kinikilala nila sa atin yun.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno says it's time for the government to regulate gambling activities. He notes the government should stop treating casinos like state-owned corporations and instead allow the private sector to create more gambling opportunities legally. Currently, the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR, regulates select gaming industries and helps provide income for various government programs. CNN Philippines has reached out to PAGCOR for a response to Moreno's remarks. Social media now playing a bigger role in the elections, but media practitioners warn the public should be on alert against disinformation. Stanley Gahete filed this report.
If you happen to swipe on messages about candidates on your device, fact-check once, twice, even 3 times. A Senate hearing on campaign messaging and social media points out how disinformation has been spread widely through a sequence of instructions called algorithm.
Misinformation or disinformation can be both positive messaging or negative messaging. Unfortunately, the trend persists despite the efforts that have gone into curbing disinformation.
UP Professor Yvonne Chua says hate speech and praises online have been directed at 2 presidential aspirants based on research.
Majority of those are directed against presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo po. So marami po talaga. Every week po, she is the biggest victim of disinformation or negative messaging po. We see substantial, also significant volume of false or misleading claims about the presidential candidate Ferdinand Marcos Jr., in which case these are largely positive or in his favor, seeking to promote him.
A separate research released by UP states information on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube has resulted in the creation of different social media communities based on interest and election issues. By using a number of tools, researchers have found out that this information comes from related networks of social media accounts.
It is the power to set agenda, to set trends, to set conversation topics. It's the conditions of the platform that makes us susceptible to manipulation.
In the same hearing, columnist John Neri describes disinformation on social media as democratic erosion, and voters should be on alert against such content.
As scholars like Cheryl Ruth Soriano and Fatima Gao have discovered, the virtual infinity of quote-unquote fake news and other forms of disinformation and so-called gray content may actually be classifiable into just a handful of messaging themes. Society as a whole, the government included, has a responsibility to minimize the harm that social media platforms enable or cause.
Media practitioners say stakeholders should unite against disinformation on social media by fact-checking information to help voters make an informed choice. Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
Up next on Newsnight, football legend Tom Brady announces his NFL retirement. Find out how celebrities are reacting to the news. Plus, players of a PBA team are set to play for Gilas Pilipinas in the FIBA qualifiers this month. Details after a short break. back to CNN Philippines. Football superstar Tom Brady is saying goodbye to his NFL career after over 2 decades in the league. Following days of speculation, the 44-year-old quarterback announced his retirement on social media. It reads in part, quote, "I have loved my NFL career, and now it is time to focus my time and energy on other things that require my attention," unquote. Brady also thanked his team, his family, and his supporters, among them a number of celebrities who have gone online to congratulate Tom. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson commented on Brady's post saying, quote, "Go enjoy the next chapter." NBA icons Stephen Curry and Shaquille O'Neal also reacting to the news, with Shaquille saying Tom should play for 1 more year. Former baseball player Alex Rodriguez left a comment calling Tom the GOAT, or the greatest of all time. And back here at home, we might see some players from reigning PBA Philippine Cup champion TNT Tropang Giga join the national men's basketball team this month to fill gaps in the Gilas pool. Coach Chot Reyes has requested to tap some Tropang Giga athletes for the February window of the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. Some Gilas players are unavailable because of activities abroad. Philippine Basketball Association Commissioner Willie Marshall says the league will adjust TNT's schedule in the Governor's Cup, so Gilas will have time to prepare for the qualifiers. The national team will face South Korea on February 24th, India on the 25th, and New Zealand on the 27th. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by...
We all get information all the time. What we pay attention to is what makes the difference.
What are you afraid of?
Really being seen, being judged, being hurt.
I like being called she sometimes.
I'm non-binary.
I use they, them, and he, him pronouns.
This addiction that we're seeing is not by accident, it's by design. It's psychological terrorism.
We have hundreds and hundreds of furries going through the hotel. What are guests gonna think?
It is weird, but it's fun.
It is an exciting time to be a woman right now.
I am not ashamed of being mentally ill.
How do you think the gang problem can be solved?
There's no excuse for this.
Meth has no boundaries. It is a demon.
In the end, it feels like it takes your soul.